Matt hit us up. And Matt said, in the first 10 years of the expanded college football playoff, how many times do you think we'll have an all-SEC semifinal? Matt from the Midwest. He hails from the Midwest. Matt, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I know this is the biggest fear tactic that a lot of my people are using right now. Anti-expansion types. They're out there on the streets saying, you better be careful. You're going to have an all-SEC semifinal. Mathematically, that's really hard to swing because you're going to have 6 spots that go to conference champs. So one of those will be an SEC team. And then you've got 6 at-large bids. So to even get 4 SEC teams in there, you got to have another 3 of them jammed up pretty tight, which happens. Didn't necessarily happen this past year, but it could happen. But even then, there's an important thing to note as we dive into this possibility. You've got to get the seeding right. And I know that the playoff committee is going to tell you they pay no mind to potential future matchups when they initially seed the playoff. I think that's a lie in the new playoff because I think there is no chance, or at least I think they're going to minimize the risk of ending up with 3 or 4 SEC teams in the semifinal. What do I mean by that? I mean, if there is no rule instituted that says you can't play one of your own in the first round, they're going to match up those SEC teams as early as they can to knock at least one of them out by default. So just for fun, I had producer Jesse go and populate the 12-team playoff field from this past year. What would it have looked like? Again, I want to stress, just because this was the top 12 doesn't mean if we had a 12-team playoff, this is how they would have seeded it. In other words, they knew it doesn't matter if we put Tennessee at 8 or 9 or 10. They're not in the playoff either way. Well, if we knew we had a 12-team playoff and we had some angles that we wanted to go about in that room, maybe we're a little more strategic. But for broad strokes purposes, here's how it would have looked. Georgia, Michigan, Clemson, and Utah would have gotten byes. Again, I want to emphasize how big a joke it is that we are instituting a model where the Clemson Tigers would have gotten a first-round bye because they won a landfill of a conference. But that's what we have. So anyway, that would have been your top 4. You would have had Bama at 7. You would have had Tennessee at 8. You would have 3 SEC teams in, period. So certainly you're not getting 4 of them in the semifinal. That was a down year. You could say, Josh, well, you know good and well, there are some years where there would have been many SEC teams up there. I know that. Certainly know that. Okay, so let's say it was an up year for the SEC. Let's say they got 4 of them in here. Maybe 5. Who knows? Even so, getting all 4 of those to perfectly be seeded to where they can all advance and meet each other in the semifinals, that's going to be hard. Not impossible, but hard. 3 out of the 4, a lot more likely. At least 2 out of the 4 is likely. I think mathematically that's just likely most years. That's not what you should be asking yourself. The question of will they ever get all 4, that's not what you should be asking yourself. What you need to be asking yourself is, do they get 2 or 3 out of the 4 in there? Therefore, how often, how high is the likelihood that we get all SEC national championship games? Now, you may say to me, well, we already had one in 2011, didn't we? We already had another one in 2017. We had another one in, what was it, 2022? Yeah, last year, or 2021. Sure did. A lot had to go right. I am just telling you, if you run the numbers, I think you are entering an era where it is more likely, statistically, that you get an all-SEC championship game. Now, you think I'm fear-mongering. Well, of course I am. Not really, because it's fruitless at this point. I don't care. At this point, you're giving me what you're giving me. I don't care. I just want to remind you there's nowhere else to go. Like if you're getting that result and you end up not liking it and you end up having some really uncomfortable pairings in the semis and the final, you got what you got. Because I've got all of you on the record now that this is going to be good for the sport. And ultimately, if you're saying this thing, expanding it because you want more of that thing is good for the sport, you must kind of worship at the altar of the playoff. It's all about the playoff or the sport culminates in the playoff, just like the NFL. NFL playoffs are what it's about. College football playoff is what it's about. I don't feel that way, but if you do, that's fine. But if that's how you feel, we should shape the playoff for it to be best for the sport, and that's the outcome. You chose the format. Not I, said the Bobcat. You chose the format.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Make sure you like the video and please subscribe to the channel. Not just for me, that's how we keep this entire thing free.